There are so many different ways that you can create chord progressions that I think you can literally fill one YouTube channel with only this topic. Today I'll be talking about a technique that will be useful to beginners as well as intermediate musicians and composers. And I guarantee it will generate great results in any style or genre. So let's get creative. Today we're going to create chord progressions by using single chords as our resource. And just a quick disclaimer, this video will not be about functional harmony. This is reserved for a different video later on. So before we can even start thinking about writing chord progressions, we need to know what key we're going to be in and what chords go together with that key. So that brings us to step 1. Today I felt like writing something in the key of A minor. To find out what chords I can use in this key, I'm going to write out a natural minor scale first. I do this by using each scale degree as a root note and then add a third and a fifth on top. Keep in mind when adding these tones that you can only use notes that are part of the scale. And when we're finished with this, we have all the chords that we can use in the A minor key. Step 2. When we play an A minor chord, we have 3 tones sounding simultaneously. And these tones are A, C, and E. From just this A minor chord, we're going to create our first chord progression. To start off, we write down the chord tones A, C, and E, each in a separate bar. To make our first chord progression, we're going to add a triad on top of each of these notes. And this will be easy because you can just take them from our chord resource that we made at step 1. This is now a 3-bar chord progression. And if you want to turn it into a 4-bar chord progression, you just simply repeat the last chord. And then the result is this. To make more phrases or chord progressions, I want to find out if the tone A is part of any other chords in the key of A minor. And as I can see, the A is also part of the F major chord and part of the D minor chord. Let's continue with the F major chord for my next phrase. I'm going to write down all the chord tones in separate bars, so we have F, A, C, and again I'm going to build a triad on top of each of these chords. So this gives us F major, A minor, C major. Instead of starting on the F major chord, I want to start on the A minor chord, because that will confirm A minor as our home base. For the rest, the order in which you play the chords is up to you. Now let's hear both chord progressions played after each other. It's starting to sound like something good, and this takes us to step 4. I want to add an extra chord to make it into a real 4-chord progression. From the chords that have the A in them, I only have not used the D minor yet. But to get a 4th chord, I also need a 4th tone. To get this extra tone and chord, I'm going to make the D minor into a D minor 7. So I'm going to add the 7th tone. Again, I want to write all the chord tones in separate bars and then build a triad on top. And this is what you get. I want to start on the A minor chord to confirm the key, and I also want to keep the beginning the same to confirm to the other chord progressions. Let's hear all phrases played after each other. I'm not crazy about how the second and the third phrase sound after each other. It seems a bit boring and too much repetition. But maybe I can fix this later, so let's leave it for now. This brings us to step 5. I want to add a final 4-chord phrase. And what I'm going to do is use the A minor 7 chord as my resource. So it will be the same as our first phrase, but we have the extra tone G, because that's the 7th tone of A minor. If I look at the chord resource of step 1, I can see that this G tone will become a G major triad. And the result is this. Of course, now I want to hear what all the chord progressions sound like when they're played after each other. But before doing this, I think I need to revisit the order in which they are played to avoid too much repetition. Definitely I want to keep the 2 4-chord progressions at the end for the sense of expansion and growth. So if we switch phrase 1 and 2, we avoid too much repetition and hold the interest of the listener. Let's listen to what the full progression sounds like. This technique can be used for any style of music, and the beautiful thing is that you automatically get a nice variety between major and minor chords. Also, this technique allows you to make the chord progressions as long or as short as you want. So you can even end up writing a 2-bar chord progression. You just need to delete a couple of chords that you don't need. So while you're creating some new chord progressions and experimenting with new possibilities, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel. And for now, see you next time.